Yeah, sure.
Before you started, you have started recording. Good morning.
Good morning. Hey, Raul.
Okay, go ahead. Yeah, no, I was going to ask, they were running in the test environment examples slash directory contracts from there for a little while in testnet. What I'm wondering is, what do we have that's similar to that? I mean, I know you guys were saying earlier there's a bunch of directories or contracts that Joshi has written and all that. Is there anything beyond examples slash that we could use to kind of do random contracts against the code?
NetZipper was collecting them. I don't know what the current status is. There's a lot of Rolang examples, certainly in Dan's and Joshi's directories, in my directories.
Can you give me like a list of those, so that basically the script that Wokey had to run random contracts from this directory probably can be expanded to include all those directories, and we can see what we get out of that.
Yeah, we should see what NetZipper's doing. I mean, he was collecting them.
He was, okay. All right.
No, I can give you the list of from GitHub, list of all files, because I was checking the number of repositories, but I'm not sure if this is like a useful thing. So, but I can maybe provide this list. So if you can, if you want to look and maybe see some of these files.
Well, yeah, I mean, like, I think NetZipper should have that list so that he can, because he's curating the contracts that could be run. So, but yeah, you can ping me and NetZipper or anybody else on this group, I guess, because Jim may be able to look at that list and say, oh yeah, you know, this directory certainly has a bunch of things or whatever, based on prior experience. Okay. So yeah, please, whatever you're able to do there, that will be a great help. Because we just want to, I mean, these contracts are sitting there. Writing new contracts takes time. I just want to use what we have to expand the test suite, so to speak, for the new code that's coming through. Yeah. Do you guys think that's helpful or useful?
Well, you know, in order to make a test useful, you have to have a test to see if you got the output that was expected. You can't just run the script. It doesn't really do anything unless somebody's, you know, knows what it's supposed to, you know, nobody's going to know what it's supposed to do and notice what's wrong unless we explicitly test to see if we got the output we expected.
Right, right. So there are two levels of that, right? First thing is I want to see if any of these things crashes. The code is one thing, which I think kind of can be automated, because you can basically see what the instrumentation is reporting when you run these things. But the second part is the accuracy part of it, which is it doing what it's supposed to do? That will take more human intervention. And I don't know if we have the resources right now to do that in the community or interest. Do you think there is interest to do that, or?
Well, perhaps individuals could be assigned a specific script, and they're responsible for understanding how that script works and what the output is supposed to be, and then they can monitor that. Perhaps that's, so in the pool of all the scripts, break it down to a smaller segment that, you know, individuals can kind of monitor. That's perhaps one way.
And we can also use maybe existing scripts in different way. Like for creating a wallet or a vault and a transaction, this is also like a script that you can modify and then see if you can make something that that you can check if it's working as expected. Right? If you transfer something from one channel to another, and
I see. So basically, you're saying at the end of the script, there can be a basically validation script that says, okay, did this do what we expect it to do or not, right?
Yeah. In a sense, now this Python library, RChain, it is written also. It is written exactly the same way. You do some transactions, and then at the end, Python says assert this balance is this number.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm also thinking about some strange situation that maybe no one expects, right? To create Genesis Vault on the channel that already has Genesis Vault or something like, I don't know, because I'm not sure what is expected behavior. I was transferring from one Genesis Vault to another. Is this correct, or should this be allowed? Or so yeah.
That is correct. Yeah, I mean, basically, for some things we may not be able to kind of. Well, I mean, I think for most of them, actually, we should be able to define the validation up front, right? Like, say, for example, if there is Genesis block and somebody's trying to create a Genesis block, we should be able to create a validation that says, if Genesis existed already when the script started, is this if this is creating another Genesis block, it's wrong, and if it is failing to, then it is right. I mean, that's the validation for that kind of a thing, right?
Yeah, but on the other hand, if we remove these special names to create something in a registry, we can execute the whole contract without really talking about the real vault, right? Because you can run your contract, which is exactly the same as these provided by RChain, right? They say this is like a special thing which will hold the rep, but you can have your own token, and you don't have to use registry. You can just run on your node. So in that sense, we can like simulate all of these things, right?
Yeah.
Because this is what we want to check. Some strange behavior maybe, and I'm not sure.
So Tomislav, once we identify this list of contracts, would you be able to help with either doing these validations? And I guess having validations would help not only just the minimal test I was trying to do, which is does it crash or not, but also to say which tests are passing, which tests are failing.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. Would that be relatively simple to do? I mean,
yeah, and especially because now I'm working on this wallet communication and everything. So a part of that I can like create something.
Right. Okay.
Because I need to test also my code, so I will be in this part.
Correct. Yeah. So the wallet you're building, how long of an effort is that?
So this part of communication, I was just saying that now I have a better understanding of the whole gRPC protocol, and there is this envoy proxy which can be used for web applications. So this is like a standard thing that we can put between a web application browser and the rnode without any other service. So I'm planning to have this like static web page which can communicate with rnode via this proxy.
So when you say rnode, you mean gRPC or something different?
You can only communicate with gRPC. So this proxy converts HTTP to gRPC.
And that's a piece that's already available somewhere?
Yeah.
Or are you writing it?
No. This is like a publicly available code that Google provided just for this purpose, because browser doesn't support gRPC.
Okay.
So yeah, I definitely want to use something that is already built, right?
Already built and already tested, because we want that.
Already. better tested doesn't exist. The whole gRPC protocol is, you know, not very well tested.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing with things like wallets is that we do want to use as many, what do you, I mean, how do you say it, roadworthy components, like, you know, stuff that has been already used, debugged, security audited, whatever else, as much as possible.
This code that uses HTTP, it's the same. So they try to keep the same API for gRPC and HTTP. So and now I'm testing this, and this is almost the same. So we can use the same code.
Right.
Can you show us anything?
Now I'm stuck on a few methods on rnode via this proxy doesn't work. So I'm not sure why. Get blocks works. It receives a stream from the rnode server, but listen on a name or get visual bag, this doesn't work. So I'm stuck with that.
And Tomislav, will your wallet take an Ethereum address and convert it to a Rev address, or is that outside of the scope of what you're trying to do with your wallet?
So Nede, I talked about this, and I definitely want to do some of these things, but there is a problem to get private key from Ethereum address, from Ethereum wallet. Right?
Oh, okay.
Because you can have my Ether wallet, and on their wallet you cannot easily extract a private key. So that's the problem.
Okay. So that was kind of the thinking to approach MetaMask or Ether wallet and have them build something for that conversion process to go from an Ethereum address to a Rev address, since they have all the addresses in their domain.
Yeah, I'm not sure that we can expect any change on their part, right? Because you're unable to extract private key just because of security, right?
Oh.
This is not like a technical problem. They did it on purpose. Right?
Oh, so this idea of generating a new Rev private key from an Ethereum private key, that may not be how it's going to work.
Yeah, I mean, this is so they don't want to expose private key as a plain text. So they prefer other ways, like more than just plain private key.
So when you say they, who are you referring to, Tomislav?
I was looking at my Ether wallet.
Okay.
Very similar to what I will build. Like,
I mean, when was this? Because, you know, I see all kinds of articles and videos on how to get your private keys from my Ether wallet.
Yeah, yeah.
And I don't see anything saying that you can.
But yeah, sure.
So,
yeah, this is correct. If you already have private key, you can log in, you can do all of these things. But when you create a new wallet, they will not give you private key. They will say, okay, create a key file. So or create a mnemonic phrase. They will not show you the private key. Private key will be encrypted, or it will be in this key file. So you need this transformation.
That seems like a major problem, but
it's not that they're hiding something. They just want to be more secure for the users. Yeah, they're give you options to create a wallet with these three cases.
Okay, so if you use the mu connect, you can't get it, right?
Yeah, but I think you can export, or
I don't know.
I'm not saying that
You know, I
it's
mean,
not possible, but
what happens if your computer dies? I mean, that doesn't make any sense. I mean, obviously you have to be able to back it up.
yeah. So you can save your key store file, which holds a private key, but it is not private key. We need this additional conversion.
This is scary.
And MyEther wallet, they say that they use this mnemonic phase to encrypt private key, and on some other wallet, I found out that they use it as a seed for private key. So, and I'm also not sure that we can. That is the right way to just ask users for this mnemonic phrase.
But you know, I don't understand. You're saying the private key is going to be available. Well, this is open source software, right? So, right,
Yeah.
mu is open source, right?
Yeah.
So we should be. It's got to somehow get the private key, right? Seems like I don't know. This is weird. So weird.
Yeah. It's.
Steps to obtain the private.
And this is only one wallet, so these other wallets have their own
Right. Yeah.
thing. Yeah. I mean, there is different options. You can create now that you know that you need private key. You can create with some wallet that you know will give you private key, transferring your rocks to this new address, and then you'll have conversion. You will on this private key you'll make conversion. But this includes some transfer, which we don't want.
So there's a 12-word mnemonic seed.
Yeah, or 24. And there, it is not for seed.
So there's
it is not for seed.
You know, I've seen where the keywords don't work between wallets, and I've seen it where they do work between wallets.
Yeah.
I don't know if I know which it uses, but obviously there's code to get the private key from the 12-word phrase. Right?
Yeah, but that.
So we need to include. You just need to include that library, you know, in your JavaScript to get the private key. You would think that's easy.
Yeah, this is just for MyEther wallet. So, someone else can. Some other wallet can use this mnemonic phase in different way, in different algorithm.
They can use it, but does that means the same thing as find out what the private key is? I mean, you would think that you could just call the subroutine that takes in the 12-word phrase and then print out the private key. Seems like you can write a very simple page to do that.
But you can also have multiple private keys on this one set of words. So in that sense, you really don't want to give your 12 words, right? Because you have many private keys on this seed, right? So yeah, it's not easy thing. I was thinking that this keystone file is the most obvious way to accept and try and convert to private key. I'm not sure how standard is this, but I think it's like more standard than this mnemonic phase. But I'm not sure.
So this tool presumably will give us the private key, and I guess it's a browser based. It's recommended that you use this offline.
Yeah, yeah.
So you can run this offline to.
So, but we can suggest to users to use this this library, right? They can use it offline to get the private key, and they can also use this new wallet to sign transaction. So at the end, they can prepare their transaction and send revs to another address after swap.
So so I guess it uses the currency mnemonic as the 13th word or something. You select what the currency. Invalid root key. Oh. Okay. So
But on my Ether wallet, they say they don't use these words as a seed. They use it for encryption, so as a password for encryption. So
right. Well, this is I got this link from how to get it from Ethereum, but how to generate specific private keys from 12-word backup and wallet address.
and which wallet?
This gives any wallet. I mean, this is the BIP 39, which I assume is the standard that they all use. That's what it says. BIP 44. I don't know. That's this purports to be a way to get the so I thought I was sharing my screen. I guess it wasn't. But this was how to generate specific private keys from 12-word phrase. And this is the only, according to Stack Exchange, this is the only way. What is this?
Hey.
Hey.
Hey, NerdZipper, you were faster than me sending you the link.
Yeah, I found some Jim White Carver's Zoom room in my Zoom client.
Yeah, you want to have Jim White Carver's room always available.
All right. So we were just discussing how to get your private key from a Mu wallet, my Ether wallet. They don't give you a way to get the private key out anymore. You have a 12-word recovery phrase. And I was looking at this Stack Exchange article, which says that it's a BIP 44 and BIP 39 seeds. Counts multiple currencies. And then there's this tool, which they suggest you run offline, which BIP 39 tool, which you can put in your seeds and you can get Ethernet or other, you can get for any currency, you can get the generated private key. But the question is, how are people, can we take this tool and update it to work for getting your RChain account number?
So, one of the things actually, what Dimworm has done for the Chinese community, he has set up a web page that he says is almost ready to do token transfer. And he was asking that we give him some sample token in testnet too, so that he can demonstrate or test out the token transfer stuff.
I was doing this, and you can create your own Genesis vault and do whatever you want.
Right.
I tried this with RChain. And it works on testing also.
Mm-hmm.
Right, but you still need your private key if you're going to do it, right? If you have a Mu wallet and you don't have a private key, you can't do it. That was what the issue was here.
Oh yeah. I'm just saying that you can test if you already have your private keys.
And NerdZipper, before you came on, we were talking about the fact that you were curating the different directories that have the role-and contracts beyond example / and we were wondering where you were, because Tomislav kindly offered to enhance those tests so that without too much human intervention, we can have with validation scripts at the end of the end of those that we can have an idea of whether the test passed or not.
Sorry, could you repeat,
so,
please?
You were curating the available community role and contracts so that we could run them on the sandbox or something, right?
Yeah.
Do we have a list of repos from GitHub, Joshi's or whoever, Dan's and whoever else's, that have the contracts we could run against the current code?
There is a list, but there are applications. So basically, they all need some kind of update to the fresh rnode release. And what I'm aware about is on the RChain community readme.io website under
Which
the useful
website?
links. I will paste it.
Okay.
This one, right?
Okay. So when you say these need updates, are you saying they're not? Oh, Tomislav, were you trying to say something? You're muted.
Yeah, muted. Yeah, I was saying that I have a list of all repositories that GitHub gives me from their API when I'm searching for raw extension.
Ah, great.
So
Could you
it's
give
like
me
a bigger list, but
could you send me it and I will add to this page?
yeah, definitely.
Yeah, of course
Yeah.
But to the question Rao asked, we cannot just take this code and run it, because it can be just a contract deployed, and you have to call this contracts API, and you have to have some UI around it. So not really much use of this until you have a finished application.
Yeah, and some of this code doesn't work anymore because syntax is changed and maybe code is not updated. So probably we have a lot of code that doesn't work.
Did you put the link?
Or it is written. Yep.
Where's the link? Where did you put the link?
You're saying this to me, or?
Yeah. You have a search link, right?
There's a link in the chat, the Zoom chat.
No. I think Jimmy's asking about Tomislav's search link for .row files, something like that.
Oh, okay.
So to search GitHub, you need to run. There is some. It is called harvesting this repository, where you run some JavaScript code on your browser, and he uses GitHub API. And now I'm waiting to get results.
Oh, I see. Okay.
But it's not just a link, but I can send you the link to this repository so you can create it for yourself. I was searching for the number of repositories because I made pull request on GitHub code highlighter for rolling. So we need 100 repositories to be included in the GitHub code highlighter for rolling. So this is why I'm following this.
I see.
Cool.
So to go to Nadzipper's point about and Tomislav's point about some of this code may not work. If it breaks, I guess we will know quickly enough, right? If we run these things in an automated fashion to say these things work, these things don't work.
Oh, you mean we can collect all the files and then exclude what doesn't work and maybe make another round to see what.
And then we can see what does not work to say, okay, well, do we want to see if somebody actually basically would take the trouble to update them to the current syntax or not. Does that make sense to say, okay, at least if out of what we have, whatever 20%, 30%, 60% works, we could maybe use those as something to run and see how the system behaves with those.
Yeah, this makes sense.
I'd also be concerned that
we can try. It's rather simple. So we just deploy all the raw codes and see if it deploys actually. So,
Right.
but I'm not sure if this helps in hardening and in testing, because it will just reside in the R space and that's it. So you just store some text in the R space, and no one will execute those contracts. No one will interact and compute something with them.
Yeah, we will not have.
But at least we can check what works. So from this point, this makes sense.
Yeah, and then what Tomislav was saying was that for some of those, we may be able to create a validator script for the ones that work. We may be able to create a validator script at the end that says, okay, did it work correctly? Like, did it give the results that we wanted it to give? That sort of a thing.
Yeah, well, if those that have tests as part of the source file are easy. Otherwise, we have to somehow add tests to them. We have to actually call them to see if they work.
Yeah, but I wonder what's the purpose, because from my understanding, ROVM is how do I say, is stable. ROVM is stable, and if you deploy some Rolang, some Rolang code to the ROVM, it won't crash because of the code you deployed. So it hasn't been the case for a long time. So just by deploying some Rolang code to the ROVM, we won't test anything.
So
we need to plan and to understand what we need to investigate by running the code. I'm not sure that if we just run some random code, because actually the all code is pretty similar. There are sends, there are receives, there are data types, quotes and quotes. So the inner logic of the code is what we should understand and what we should test. What should test the platform behavior, and to understand the outcome of the test, we should understand and first understand why we're writing this code and what we're expecting for this code to bring us. If we want to stress test, for example, the execution engine, we can write some heavy computation code with a lot of sends and receives, and try to measure the time of this code being executed. If we want to measure some, for example, I just would mention I updated my script. It is in the Zoom chat for those who are interested. Please check. So if you want to test some contract, for example, if you want to test the rev-volt contract, if it is good, if it behaves the way it is expected, you should write a test for this contract. If you want to test POS contract, you need to call POS contract methods. But just when you are deploying some kind of contract and don't do anything with it, it doesn't make any load on the rnode.
Yeah, it will execute only send receives on the top of this contract, but nothing inside, right?
Yeah. So, but all the contracts are sends receives. So the language is similar for all this code.
But I mean, I think that Rao wants to know what is the existing code and can we use it in some way. So yeah, maybe we can find out that we have some kind of contracts and maybe then we can decide to write some tests to call this contract. So
yeah, that's what I'm thinking, because basically what when Tomasz ran examples / which they were not doing for a while, but they were only doing dupe.row as the only thing to simulate some activity on the testnet. But when they ran examples, contracts, random contracts from the examples directory, they did find at least one bug that I'm aware of. And that's now in the ticket. So what I'm hoping is that by running more of these, we may be able to find something, and may not, like you're saying, not zipper. But at least by running them, we know that what is the state of both what we're running as well as its interaction with the system. That's kind of what I was hoping to kind of get some variety to be able to say, okay, these things we can use in addition to examples directory. Because I don't know how many contracts examples has. I don't think it has. It is too many. But
actually, there is a lot of code under the integration tests. So examples is a kind of small folder.
Right.
More code is in the integration.
Right. Well, the integration part is something they are using already anyways, or should be using already. Even
yeah, but sorry, I interrupted you, but we don't know if this code is up to date. So if it's failing, we don't know if it is failing because our node there's some bug, or because the code is outdated and some legit changes has been seen this code was wrote. So it's
you're talking about this code as in this code of the community code that is available.
Yes, we find this code, we run it, it fails, and we don't know if it is.
So the thing is, once we know something fails versus something doesn't fail, that itself is a segregation for us to say, okay, there are these things that have failed. So the first go around is just to separate those things that fail and those things that don't fail. And then we can see if the things that don't fail can tell us something, or can be perhaps improved with validation scripts or something, to see if they're behaving, or if the system is behaving the way that need to be improved. And the stuff that is failing, we have to, I don't know, I guess manually check to see if it's a syntax issue or not. And maybe even the date, for example, if we know that all the syntax changes were in by date X, if something is way earlier than that, or whenever the major syntax changes occurred, and I don't know who is familiar with that history of, and I'm sure somebody is, to be able to say, well, we made major syntax changes on this date and on this date. So if we kind of use that to be able to say anything before those dates maybe is a syntax issue, versus stuff that came after that by and large should work. So I think what I'm saying is there are different ways of segregating the existing code base to say this piece can give us a little bit more information, versus this other stuff will take more work to get it even to run. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And then and this syntax change that you mentioned is, we know it will happen again, right? This is not something that we are afraid, right? With 1.1, we will have different syntax for in the receive. We will have ampersand for parallel, and semicolon from sequential. So we will have this change, and how we. So what I want to say is, if we have all the files, we can see what we want to fix, right? Because we don't want to have don't want to have code in official repository which doesn't work, because it is confusing, right? So someone new will look this code, will try it, and it doesn't work. So this is the worst thing that can happen. You try to learn something and this doesn't work.
So we are going to fork the working repos into the RChain community repo. Is this like a go?
Yeah, I'm just thinking that we can check all of the files from these repositories and see in which shape they are. Are they, maybe they are, you know, very easy to fix. Just some.
Okay, this
code.
can be done quite quickly. So
Yeah,
let's
and I'm
do it.
thinking even changing the syntax, like let's say we found 70% of the files don't work because of the syntax changes. I think the syntax, well, I don't know if the syntax fixing can be automated. Maybe some portion of it can be, but most of it cannot be. I don't know.
But keep in mind that a lot of the code is written without working node. You know, you, you were just writing the code in the notepad without ever executing. So you know you cannot be sure that this code is ever worked.
So I feel that the only thing that we can do on the first step is to just try to deploy the code and check what code is actually deployable and what's not, and what's left is kind of a code base that we can work with later if we wish. But actually it most probably won't work because, for example, the rev-vault contract changed recently from the hex string to the RChain to some identifier, and previously we have some basic wallet instead of rev-vault. So we had a bunch of names that aren't present already in the current RChain rolling API. So we should look through them and check what's worth fixing this. Or at least we will know who was working on this code.
Right. And I think to Tomislav's point, it may be easier to fix this code that is there as providing examples to people rather than writing a whole lot of new stuff. We do need to write a whole lot of new stuff, like you were saying, not Zipper. But like you also pointed out, that takes a lot of people and a lot of hours to do that. So the idea is to harvest what is already there and see if some kind of automated means of fixing it and improving it can be done so that it's at a point where it runs, and then we can take it into the base for dApp developers to look at as examples. That's kind of what I was thinking. And I'm fully aware that none of this will give us, it's not like this is going to give us the complete test stuff that we need to do, but it's just a matter of really using an asset that's already there, that people have spent hours developing anyways.
Yeah, sure.
So what should we do for that? I guess this Tomislav's harvester link will give you all the contracts that are available.
Yeah, we should just deploy them.
On Sandbox?
Deploy them, download them, and deploy all the, by mask, all row files to the rnode and check what deploys finish with the OK and what finish with some interpreter errors.
Right. Okay.
Thanks, Tomislav.
So Tomislav, you have a rough idea how many things were discovered by Harvester? Is it like 100?
I posted, but I comment on the Zoom, but I don't see everything here. I think it's
It's cut.
74 repositories, but maybe they're like false positives because there's some other row extension for something else. So maybe this is not all of the RChain stuff.
Could you post it in Discord so we won't lose this?
I will post the file with all of the files, not only repositories.
Cool.
So we can have everything. Yeah.
I wonder, Jim, did you try to run the robot over Sandbox?
No, I didn't.
Do you need some help with it?
Well, I'm not sure what our priority is on that. I'm a little bit concerned about I guess the value of running it at, at the current level of activity. I think just getting it all tested and well, I'm not ready yet. It's not. Once it's all tested, we can try to run it on Sandbox or testnet.
Sure.
But I think we need some participation in it. Without people voting on something, I'm not sure that we're going to learn much.
Yeah, so, Jim, I was wondering, how do you think, is it easy to implement some front end, not a Discord, but some UI built over the robot to make a voting application? Because
like a web page or something.
yeah, some UI, because that macro over Discord, I tried to get used to it and understand what should I do, but it's quite tough for me.
Well, I mean, it's defined in there.
And my question, the main question was, so every vote in this approach is anonymous.
They're not anonymous, no.
Yeah, so this doesn't work for the annual meeting.
No.
Yeah, so we need some kind of side application.
Right. This is it's designed to determine the sentiment of the organization.
Yeah.
Where you want to know where you can change your vote anytime, and you can see the current sentiment of the group, and you know who's supporting what. This is for decision making. It's not for final decision making, but it's for supporting the decision making process.
And it is quite complicated and complex code. It's a big chunk of code, and I was imagining that actual just voting application should be a rather short program.
Well, I mean, you've got the you have the identities themselves. Which is the make my locker.
I was just asking.
This is pretty simple in that this creates a data locker, which is where you keep your private information. It's very simple.
I've seen some kind of locker in the Rolang API, core API. Are you aware of that, and what is it?
No, I haven't updated this. This is actually Dan Connolly's initial locker that he made with toy keys. It's not the real locker at all.
So I have a couple of questions on this. We were talking about Lime, and with NotZip we're talking about a front end. I guess does it make sense to integrate this into Lime, or is it not even needed?
What's Lime?
LIME, the ranked voting thing that we were talking about as a possible option for elections for the
Lime survey.
yeah.
LIME.
So
that would that integrating that would be replacing the MySQL database in Lime survey with a rolling back end of some sort. Probably yeah, this is definitely
what is the Lime survey? I'm getting the wrong website here, but Lime survey.
Limesurvey.org, perhaps.
Okay, go ahead, Jimmy. So you're saying that basically it will have to replace its backend with Rolang and RSpace and all that.
right, and this was all PHP code, right? So we would, I guess, if we were going to use the Lime survey, we would need a gRPC interface to PHP, I guess.
So my plan with the wallet is not only build a wallet, but also to provide some kind of very easy way to integrate in your JavaScript application to communicate with Node. So in a sense, we don't need any server side if we can just communicate with rnode directly from the browser.
Mm.
This is like a database that you can just access, deploy and listen, deploy and listen. It's just a database.
Yeah, well, we have the browser. We have the leaning toward browser based because we don't want the private keys exposed on the server side.
Yeah.
Everything signed in the browser or the client, whatever.
Yeah, if you want to more security, you can have your own server, right? With all this stuff. Yeah, securing private key is not the problem of RChain. I posted all the files in the Discord.
Thank you, Tomislav.
All the repositories and all the files.
As the extreme way, we can just ask people to deploy the template contract with substituted digit with voting and do it through the Rolang CLI.
Yeah,
it would be very technical, but we need developers.
Yeah, it would also be easy, right? But if you can write a multi-line text in rnode CLI, it would be almost nice.
Yeah.
So this is
because now this code just replacing.
Can we let's just stay on topic with Tomislav's list of files. Can we automate on Sandbox to continuously run one after the other from those files, the various contracts, and then have the instrumentation to say this failed, this, to segregate that list to be able to say.
Yeah, I will do it. It's quite simple.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And then once we segregate that list.
sorry, Nazibur, can you generate another list with with true false?
Yeah, sure, yeah. Which one good, which one bad?
Yeah.
And I wonder also, Tomislav, in this harvester that you're using, are you able to get more attributes of the file, such as, okay, what date was it last updated or something, so that we know when NutZipper comes back with a true false, that we're able to say, okay, this thing probably is a syntax problem, whereas this thing we would expect to work, but maybe something weird is going on, type of thing.
I think it should be possible, but I'm just a regular user of this tool, so
right.
I didn't search, but it's probably possible to get it from GitHub API.
Or it could be just a simple extra query to say, okay, once you find the file, get this other data to go with it, so that we know the date last updated or something like that. And I don't know what else we need on that.
Yeah. Yeah, the problem is that there is some restriction from GitHub. You know, this code have some kind of timeout to wait, and to have some delay between requests, because there is a limit on the search. So this is the problem with API. Yeah.
Okay.
But we can try to get this information.
Yeah, we should get that, because once NutZipper comes back with a true or false, then we'll have a whole lot of manual assessment of what's going on with those files, kind of thing. So the more we can automate there, the more data points we can get, the more we can make sense of.
But definitely, it would be useful to see how many files are we have, that works.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah, that would be an interesting data point.
Yeah, and my search now is for row extension where there is 4 inside, 4 as a keyword. So there are possibly files that are not related to rowing at all.
Right. I saw one that there was one about SWAT. I was not sure.
Yeah, probably something.
Yeah, SWAT, Sheffield, Smoggle. I mean, I was not sure what that was about, but that's okay. So we will ferret those out. We'll see what % of these files is working and not working.
Yeah.
So the other piece, I guess Gary, I don't know, I hope he's doing well. He said he had to go to the hospital and back. How complicated is it, Jim, for me or somebody else to generate the Rolang using the generators that Gary was using?
It should be pretty straightforward. I mean, it's basically, it uses the BNF type generation, generators.
So do we have, or you want to give us a tutorial of how to use the generators?
I don't, I haven't used them. I think Gary could give, I think Gary gave you a tutorial that you could probably use it. I mean, basically, you start with the start with the Rolang BNF, and then start adding the snippets that you want to generate.
Did Gary find out a program who can accept RChain BNF and just process it and try to go to the next phase.
As I remember it, you know, the tools that Gary was using did that. They may have had limitations that I wasn't aware of, but no, I mean, he's using, he was using examples where he would generate random things like poetry. He would generate random geometrical shapes and figures. You know,
I'm very
so it seems like they're general purpose enough to do row line syntax.
I'm worried. Is the rolling BNF specification? Is it the right version? Right? Is it compatible with these tools? Because they are using some stuff that is not like, maybe can be tricky for other tools to read it and
Yeah.
So, but if you're saying that Gary is successfully used this BNF, or
Yeah, I mean, he used these tools, you know, he followed examples that other people did. I have to look back at it, but it seemed to me that it was you know, should have been, I mean, that generating random statements in a computer language that's consistent with the type of things that he was doing with it.
Yeah, but I think in terms of actually, did he generate a Roland program using this? I don't know. Did he?
Yeah.
I think he was getting ready to do that a while ago when I talked to him. But I don't know if he actually did. Has he participated in the last week in the meetings? Because I know he had to run to the hospital the other day and all that.
Yeah, Gary, he briefly explained, I think last week, of what he was doing with the poems and so forth. It didn't sound like he wrote any rolling scripts or anything like that. This was all existing features and capability. It's easy to use and put together. It's just a matter of, you know, getting in there and doing that. So I think he wanted to kind of think through everything that he needed to do in order to kind of bring this up. So he's been thinking about it. So I think that hopefully he's ready to approach you, Rao, as far as what the next step was. But it's been on his mind, and so he's kind of worked through what it would take in order for everything to connect to rnode.
Yeah, I was wondering if he needs like Thomas Laus or somebody else's help to complete that task, to be able to generate.
Right. So that might be the next step. So so he may be on our DApp developer working group meeting later today at 3. So I'll add that to the agenda to see where he's at and what the next steps are, and if he needs any assistance in
Right.
doing that.
Yeah, basically how we can accelerate that so that we can throw some random programs.
So we're ready to go. So yeah. I'll let him know. Okay.
Tomislav, is the 3 p.m. too late for you, the DApp developer stuff?
3 p.m.
Eastern Standard Time.
3 p.m. Eastern, which is about 3.5 hours from now.
Oh, this is not too late.
Yeah, 3 hours from 3.5 hours from now.
Yeah, it's a 9 p.m. So yeah, I will try to join on the Jim channel. Right?
Jim's room, correct?
Yeah, because I want to see if there is something there that we could get out of that process in terms of random programs that we can throw at the code and see what happens. with that.
I'm not terribly
I suspect.
hopeful that they'll be very useful, but
It may not be. I mean, but it's worth an experiment because it doesn't cost us too much.
yeah.
From the syntax, we have like infinite possibility of generating all of the terms, right? So I expecting that you know, the next step is to, you can generate everything, but you want to have some kind of constraint. What is meaningful, right? Because if you generate if you just generate the terms, you must implement some of the semantics of rolling. You must implement that you cannot use names that are not created within you, right? You cannot deploy a term that has free names. So this is like a semantic rule of the language. So with the BNF syntax, inside the BNF syntax, you don't have written all of these rules. You just have syntax rules. So when we generate the random terms, we need to implement some kind of constraint that you know, these terms must be valid. So
yeah, basically to the BNF syntax, you have to give a container. I mean, this or a data structure basically that says, okay, this is the 3 things you could use for variables. These are the 3 things you could use for contract names. These are the 3 things you could use for whatever else, right? I mean, you need to give it some data and the fact that you only pull from there, because if your first statement starts with C as a variable and your second statement says Y as a variable, it's not going to give you anything. Yeah. So we need to, that's why I'm saying Gary might need some help in terms of getting something that's close to a reasonable program. But here is the other side, or how I'm looking at it also is, suppose somebody develops a Roland program and it's all buggy, and then they execute it. What is the system going to do? I mean, we want to know that also, that if a program is completely irrational, that the system still can handle it and come back with, hey, you know, these are all the 60 problems with your code.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'm looking at both. I think whatever would allow us to specify the constraints to the generator such that it's kind of somewhat like or close to a real program, where as well as something that may not be a real program, something a hacker may be just trying to break it and say, let me throw things at it and see what happens. That sort of a approach also is what I'm looking at. So.
Yeah, this is the whole field of research now, to how to generate programs and how to make like a program synthesis to explore different possibilities and, you know, find the program that you are looking for. So yeah, it's not something easy.
Yeah, no, I know, to actually generate a fully working program through these methods is not easy, but we may be able to get.
But maybe we can think from the other side, right? Maybe we can start from very simple programs and just build more and more wrappers around, right? Because this is like some. Usually you write programs from outside to inside, right? Because you have like a contract and then it has some working. So maybe we can have some smaller pieces that are not generated, that we know that works exactly what we want, like exchange, like a chat, right? And then we can place this chat inside different contexts to see if we can keep the functionality or something else.
Right. I mean, basically there are programming phrases, if you want to, or statements or something like that. And then there are programming patterns. So if we can start with programming phrases or programming statements, whatever you want to call that, and then have the programming patterns on top of that. And then you have the domain stuff that needs to be somehow translated into these programming patterns and statements that are being used. So I think if we can do those 3 levels, maybe, or maybe there's many more levels, but do something like that and then try to bring them together, we may be able to do the simple the simple kind of program that you're talking about. Right? I mean, for example, we have a knowledge of, okay, you know, to deploy a contract means these things, and you need those, and then we can think about what are the programming statements and the programming patterns that you would need for those, and then you somehow mash those together, or auto-generate those together, to be able to see how far you get in the actual program synthesis. So
now you mentioned something that I just crossed my mind. When you're talking about deploys, I usually think about just evaluating the code, right? You just have your node and you just evaluate the code without the deploy, right? Without blockchain. So I'm wondering where is the distinction, right? Because if we testing the tuple space, we don't really need Kasper and all the blockchain stuff, because, you know, the deploys are expensive because they are on the whole network, and some of the programs are just testing the rolling, the virtual machine. So it doesn't make sense to go to the process of deploys if you're just testing the virtual machine. So I'm not sure where is the, you know, where is the...
Yeah, no, that's true. I mean, basically, if, you know, this is, I think, the point that NotZipper was making before, was that it depends on how complete you want the test to be. And basically, I guess what you're saying is maybe we can quickly get to, not quickly, but with some effort, get to testing the Roland virtual machine. That, I think, in and of itself would be significant. If we can generate automated tests to do that. If we were to do Kasper and other things, I guess we will need more of that piece of the domain and the patterns specified there, and see if we can random generate those, right?
Yeah, exactly. And here's, because you are testing not only rolling, you're testing all the Kasper stuff.
Mm-hmm.
How will be synchronized and right?
Yeah, and actually we have a meeting tomorrow, I think, to go over Kasper testing strategies. At least that's a beginning conversation to really say, okay, you know, what can we, or how can we test Kasper? Because the way it is now is that there's all these interlinked pieces. You know, there's the RSpace, COM layer, Roland, and Kasper, and then anything we test, some of those elements, say any one element or more, may be giving a problem, and then we'll get stuck with testing until that issue or bug is resolved. So the idea is to really say, okay, how can we approach it so that no matter where the problem might be in the lower layers, we at least have sort of testing strategies defined for each of those things. And then once we start doing that, wherever the problems crop up, they crop up, and then we have to resolve those. But that's kind of the thinking. We're just starting that conversation on that tomorrow. I think it's tomorrow, to kind of figure out what possibilities might be there. I mean, you could do things like TLA plus that with Isaac we were talking about the other day, from a top-down perspective. But I think that whole area is being explored, and we'll see what we come out with on that.
Yeah, this means writing some additional stuff that is not in the Roland.
Correct.
It's not written in the Roland. So, and we can also use Roland reflection to, you know, inside the Roland we already have like possibility to match on the terms, right? Because we have reflection. So from that perspective, we can generate code inside the Roland and just, you know, run it. If we can read the files from the GitHub, we could just read the file with the contract inside, with the Roland term, and just run it, right? It's that easy, right? We don't need a parse it or anything else, because we already have it. We already have all these things inside the Roland. So, but we cannot use it today because we don't have all this stuff. We can supply it to standard input or something like that. But yeah, it would be useful to have these things inside the Roland, not on the blockchain, but just on Roland on the rnode.
So run that by me again. So you're saying the
so when you want
the
to
reflection is available but is not usable. Is that what you're saying?
No. I'm saying that we have only one way to put the code inside the Roland via standard input.
Mm-hmm.
So the Roland that is not connected to blockchain. This Roland is very restricted. It cannot read files. It cannot do anything. So you cannot communicate with Kasper, although you are in the same process, in the same machine, you are in the same node. You cannot ask Kasper, give me all the blocks, which in a sense is, for me, strange. You need to go outside and ask the virtual machine, give me all your blocks via gRPC or whatever. But you cannot ask this question inside the rnode, although they are in the same process. Is this make sense?
Yeah. I'm just trying to think about it. So why do you think the design is the way it is?
Oh, the Roland on the blockchain now is almost the same as the Roland, which is not on the blockchain. They have the same thing that can access.
Now, if you were to directly ask Kasper to give you the blocks,
yeah, he can give you some kind of object with all of this information that you get via gRPC or via another node via standard. We don't have some kind of special name that you can say, okay, this Kasper that is next to me running, just give me all the blocks. We don't have this bridge, but it would be nice because everything is rolling. So why not?
But I'm wondering, would the Kasper that's next to you, would that know about what blocks to give you? Is kind of what I'm wondering.
Well, if you ask via gRPC, it will give you all the information. It's API. But this API is not exposed to Roland. It's exposed to gRPC and to Bash via rnode, right, via CLI. But inside rnode, inside Roland, you don't have any way to make this request. And I agree. I was talking to Arthur. I agree that we don't want to expose Roland to everything, right? But this Roland that is not connected to blockchain, it is just a regular language, like JavaScript, like any other language,
right?
Like Java, you just write whatever you want. And so why not expose the Kasper API to this Roland? Then we can do what NotZipper is saying. We can just go to REPL, and or we can already have some contracts inside our tuple space, and we can just do valid transactions directly. So you are inside your REPL. You can send to Kasper deploy from your node, from your tuple space. You're just converting this contract to another rolling, like, and you're just making deploy. And you're just saying, okay, now I'm inside rolling and just doing deploy. That would be very, very nice. And we could say you can do transfer of revs without any other language, just with the rolling.
So you see that coming out as like a community enhancement, or what do you see that as, or when do you see that happening?
I'm not sure how easy this is to build.
I'm just thinking,
because now it's very limiting to use rolling. You don't have access to anything, so it's very, and via gRPC you cannot communicate with this other rolling which is not on the blockchain. You cannot communicate with this rolling. You can only communicate with Kasper, not with rolling. So you really have any way to do this. Maybe it would be useful to at least evaluate the code via gRPC. That would be like closer to that.
yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, this is the first time I heard about it. I don't know the design choices or decisions in there. Did you, I guess, do you participate in Kasper stand-ups with Greg?
On the Mondays. Yeah.
Monday morning.
Yeah, I'm trying to change my schedule to attend. Yeah. Now I'm more focused on this stuff of around wallet. So yeah.
Right. Yeah. I mean, we should definitely bring these things up to the team. I mean, basically, Greg primarily, I think, is driving the decisions there. And of course, there's the Mercury envelope with a very tight timeline and all that kind of stuff. So it's the other reason why. Yeah. But I think, post Mercury, what is it that would be helpful is something to think about.
Yeah. To be more easy for developers to engage.
Yeah. So I think we've been going on at this for almost 2 hours now, 1 hour, 50 minutes. Do we want to continue this, or what are we doing?
I have other things to do, so I have been sort of not involved here. So.
And I think NutZipper has started running these things. He wants to say something.
Yeah, I just run the script, so soon I will send you the results.
Oh, nice.
I didn't hear the last part.
I will soon send you results. So I just testing these raw files against my local node 9.12 release. So.
Oh, okay. How is it going so far? Are most of them failing, or can you tell?
Actually, quite a lot are good, but some of them have some stuff like linked list API. I don't know where it's from. Some names that looks like doesn't exist. So we'll see.
Okay, that's good.
Okay, so see ya.
Yeah, thank you, NutZipper.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye.
I think we'll then cycle back with Gary to see what we can do in terms of the random program semi-synthesization, I guess we should say. And then NotZipper is going to come back with the results, so that should help us out with having a bigger test suite to do that.
Sounds good. Okay. So in 3 hours and 10 minutes from now, we have the DApp developer group. So everyone's invited, and we can, hopefully Gary will be there and we'll touch base with him at that time.
Cool.
All
Okay.
right.
So is
All right.
that's 4 Eastern, 3 Eastern, right?
Yeah, 3 p.m. Eastern time.
Okay. I was going to, and that goes only for 1 hour. Yeah, maybe I can reschedule my thing with Chris to be an hour later or something. Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you everyone. Have a good day.
See you later.